World Carnivore Month has come to an end. What are we going to do now? What's shaking, bacon? In today's video, we're going to go over a bit of an update with what I'm going through. I've been doing a lion diet for 4 months from September till January, and in January I decided to open it up to a regular carnivore diet, but with a cap of about 2 pounds of meat a day. Now, I actually had, in my opinion, a couple pretty bad reactions to that. 2 pounds of meat a day isn't enough for me, and I knew that going into that. That's roughly about 2,000 calories a day, and assuming I'm having red meat. Now, days where I eat leaner, where I'm having some chicken or some turkey or even a little bit of lean pork, those calories aren't going to be quite as high. I don't pay too much attention to calories. I'm not ruled by it at all. But what happened was, I'm between a double and triple XL. Triples are way too big on me. And doubles, depending on where I buy my clothes, they're kind of tight. So I wanted to speed up that transition of fitting into my double XL clothes more comfortably, because when you have a history of fluctuating with weight for a lot of years, you have a bunch of different sizes in your wardrobe. I wanted to get to that point where I could wear some of my winter clothes that's double XL and not have it be embarrassingly tight on me. So I spent January restricting my food intake. What that did, that had a few effects which I expected. My sleep was horrible. I expected that to happen. I was eating enough to get me through the day as far as my energy went, but when I was doing any exercising on top of that, man, I'd hit a wall fast. I mean, really fast. And I learned from the days when I was powerlifting that if I wasn't getting enough calories and the proper types of calories with more macros and fats in my diet, my lifts would suffer really fast. I mean, within days, not weeks, days. And that's exactly what happened, and I expected that to happen with this. But as my challenge grew more intense through the month, I was just doing a squat challenge this month. Instead of being able to do, say, 35, 40 squats at a time before I'd have to stop and rest, I was stopping at 10, 15, and then I'd kind of be like, like, I'm just so tired, I have no stamina, and then I'd have to pump out another 10 or 15 at a time. That was it. I was spent. And that's one way you know your calories are too low. But it was for a goal. My goal was to be able to fit into my double XL clothes because I only have this winter to wear it. And I didn't want to go out and buy a bunch of clothes because there's all these restrictions with COVID. And I like getting my clothes in the States because I'm only an hour away from the border. I live in Ontario. Clothes up here for a big guy is really expensive, but now I can fit into Costco size clothes. I was at that in-between phase where double XLs were too tight and triple XL was way too loose. So I ended up thinking, you know what, I'm gonna do this for a limited amount of time. And to be honest, I wasn't gonna do this through January, February, and March. I was going to stick at about 2 pounds of meat a day, but my goal's accomplished. I've gotten to the point where I could fit into a double XL, no problem, almost from any brand of clothing. And it's good enough. I'm not gonna do this because I felt rotten the whole month, and especially when I went to exercise or went to sleep, that was where it was really catching up with me because it just caps my sleep. When I don't get enough calories, I sleep poorly and I don't get much sleep at all. I'm not gonna do that to myself for another 2 months. So I'm going to change my goal up to at least back to 3 pounds a day. And in fact, I think I'm gonna go back to the lion diet because I feel so good when I eat that way. So I'm gonna do that for the month of February. The reason why I'm not gonna do it in March, well, my capicolo I've been making is gonna be ready by then. So I might hold off, I'll play it by ear. But I do plan on having that this year. I'm not gonna go the whole year without eating that capicolo. So when I made all this homemade sausage a few weeks ago, I took the muscle out of the shoulder and my dad and I made capicolo with it. So you take the meat and you cure it with salt, and then after a week you wash it off and then you season it and you put it in a casing and you let it hang and you let it dehydrate. And it's already cured by this point, and my dad does all the rotating and everything. He's got the time, he's retired. And it takes a bit out of him nowadays, so I'm probably gonna be inheriting this myself next year to do it myself because it's a lot on his shoulders. So he doesn't need that, he's 80 years old, right? So anyway, I do plan on eating that this year. And I'm not gonna stick with the lion diet consistently because I have all that food I'm gonna make a point of eating. So that capicolo is really good cured Italian deli meat. This kind of meat you would put on like a charcuterie board. Come February, I'm going back to the lion diet. Now you might be asking yourself now though, as World Carnivore Month comes to an end, I decided to shoot this video today instead of on Saturday because I put my videos out every Thursday morning and Sunday morning. And I thought I want people to have time to watch this video before they make a decision at the end of the month when they decide to go back possibly to their regular standard American diet. Now the problem with that is you finished your accomplishment. That's great. You made it the whole month. You didn't cheat or you didn't treat yourself too bad and you had a little hiccup here or there, but for the most part, you can honestly say you did a really awesome job. And you're getting to the point where you're just starting to feel the benefits without any of the side effects that people often have, like diarrhea or low energy or sugar and carbohydrate withdrawal. Now that you're finally feeling good, maybe you should consider keeping it up for another few weeks, because what you'll notice in the first 2 months, if you pay attention, you'll notice each week you'll still feel better and better by the end of each week, going into weeks 5, 6, 7, and 8. It's great that you've accomplished your goal if you've gotten to this point where you've kept it up for a month, but you're just starting to feel the benefits now. They often say people should try a carnivore diet for at least 2 to 3 months because the first month, 2 or 3 weeks of it is plagued with feeling like crap if you're going through those withdrawals. So now that you finally have an idea of all the good and none of the bad, run with it. Give it an extra few weeks, even if it's just 1 extra week. Say you had total intentions to go back to a standard American diet or meet yourself somewhere in the middle between your standard American diet and managing carbs, and you weren't gonna go on and do carnivore. Give it an extra week or 2 at least so that you can experience all these benefits, everything from your waistline getting better to all your health problems getting better, and give yourself that opportunity to see what it's like to truly feel like what it is like to be carnivore without all the side effects. I found when I first switched to carnivore, when I first tried this back in 2018, when I first did this, I thought I'm gonna take it 1 week at a time. And I kept myself full on red meat. I didn't allow myself to go through withdrawals because I stayed so full on red meat. And at the end of the first week, I swear, I put on muscle without any exercising. My body wanted to put on a certain amount of muscle and keep it, and I was finally giving it enough protein to do that. Now I was having a ridiculous amount of meat a day. I was probably having between 6 and 7 pounds of meat a day, mainly red meat. And what happened was, I was doing good. And every week, I ended each week and I did an assessment. I thought, you know what, I feel better than I did last week. I'm gonna do it again for another week. And at the end of the second week, I thought, man, I feel pretty good. I'm gonna do this for a third week. I can't believe how good I feel. At the end of the third week, I was like, I feel amazing. I feel even better than I did last week. And at the end of the fourth week, I thought, I'm just gonna keep this up. It's working so well. And it's not a bad idea to adopt that way of thinking. Now that you've gotten over the hurdle, why put yourself over the hurdle again and try and do it again next January or again in a month or 2? You've gotten all the cravings out of your system and all the withdrawals out of your system. Run with this, fly with it. Show other people how it's done. Show them your determination is paying off. Let them know through your example how well it's working for you, because the way this works, sadly, is other people will hear about this wacky thing you're doing, this carnivore diet, zero carb diet for a month, and they'll be like, oh, okay. Now, maybe they may not say too much, but what happens is when they start to see the results, then they get really curious. So there's been quite a few people now who would hear what, they'd ask me about this way of eating and I would tell them and, they would listen and they go, oh, that's kind of interesting stuff. I should try it one day. And then what happens is they didn't see me for 2 or 3 or 4 months. And then they run into me and they're like, are you still doing that carnivore diet? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, I have to start that. How do I start this? And they get really excited because now they started to see I was doing really well and they could see the results. Until people see the results, it's just the world we live in. They're not really gonna take it too seriously. And this is the other crazy part. You're doing the diet yourself. And for some people, until you yourself see the results in your waistline or on the scale, you can get very discouraged doing this way of eating because you're sitting there and the scale might go up 5 pounds in the first month and you're thinking, oh, this is exactly what I didn't want. And you get discouraged. But meanwhile, you might have lost a few sizes. Maybe you went down 3 or 4 inches on your waist in that month. Between the bloating and then the weight loss, which happens over the rest of the month, it's not uncommon that people lose 10, 15, 20, 25 pounds, depending on the types of food they're eating and how much of it. and just how their body reacts to this way of eating. It's a really great accomplishment you've had, getting to this point where you've made it to the end of the month. Kudos to you. You know, that's a real accomplishment. It's a tough thing to get over when you're dealing with carbohydrate addiction. And now that you're there, what I don't recommend is giving yourself that treat, even if it's just one day. One day will set back that carb addiction. And you'll say to yourself, you know what, I've been wanting that glass of wine all month. And then what's gonna happen, you'll have that glass of wine, and I'm telling you, this is often how it works for people. You're gonna feel it, and you're gonna just slip, and you're gonna have a hard time getting back on the wagon. So you've accomplished something amazing. Why don't you try running with it for a little bit? You know, this doesn't have to be the rest of your life thing. Remind yourself of the reasons why you started this. And say to yourself, if I felt that good, why don't I just keep this up? And just trust me, having that day or that weekend or whatever it is you plan on doing, where you're just gonna treat yourself to that thing you've been looking forward to, it's not gonna be worth it. It's just not a fun thing to put yourself through again. It's a slippery slope right now when you're dealing with this carbohydrate addiction. But you know what? If you go back to it, no judgments, right? I mean, I had to go on and off it lots of times before I finally ran with it. Sometimes you have to keep banging your head into the wall before you realize, I'm really not as good at this managing carbohydrates as I thought I was. And you started creating a cycle of eating good, eating bad, eating good, eating bad, eating good, eating bad. And then you go weeks or months at a time because you've just gotten discouraged by it. Give your body a chance to get rid of this addiction. And I found in the past 3 months. 3 months is a good window of time before those addictions are really handled, and you're not even gonna crave those things. It takes about a month before the cravings are manageable and they're gone. Maybe 2 months before, you know, you can go to someone's house and not be too tempted with any food that's on the table, but you still might give in to it. And for me, it takes about 3 months. And at 3 months, I can go to someone's house and the worst foods can be there, the things that I used to always give in with, and it doesn't faze me. I'd rather starve than eat that food. I hope for anyone who's going through this challenge, wondering when's it gonna end, when's this sugar addiction gonna end, when are these cravings gonna end, when I'm gonna stop giving into these tempting foods, it takes about 2 or 3 months. Some people, maybe a little longer, but often 2 or 3 months. So let's see what we can do. So I hope this video was helpful for you, and I hope you enjoyed it. Take care, and tune in another time. And if you like this video, subscribe and give it a thumbs up.